Billy Napier might be saving his job. Now, this is a guy who I thought Florida should have moved on from after Texas A&M, who's a fine but not great team, went into the swamp and blew out the Gators. Final score 33-20, game was not that close, for the second time in 3 weeks on their home field. Miami did it week 1, Texas A&M did it, but they beat Mississippi State. They're coming off a bye, and they're at home against UCF. If the Golden Knights go into Gainesville, who have been in a power conference for about 2 hours, this is their second season, I don't know how, if you're Scott Strickland, the athletic director at Florida, you can look at that and deem it to be an acceptable result, or how you can feel like there is any upward trajectory, because I already don't see it. You know, a 45-28 win at Mississippi State, okay, that's much closer to where this Florida team should be playing compared to what their talent is and what the schedule looks like. But to not only lose both the Miami and Texas A&M games, but to get embarrassed both times, every single week, and I'm sure it is, should be a significant data point that you gather to work towards, are we bringing back Billy Napier as our head coach come 2025? And look, I wouldn't. Coming into this year, I was more inclined to say, yeah, I think he can get to 5-7 and save his job, and it's just a tough schedule, and you kind of give him a pass there. Well, they have 2 wins. How many do you think they can get? They're 3-point underdogs. Oh, man. Can you imagine going into the middle of the swamp in 2008, grabbing a microphone and saying, one day, you're going to be an underdog to UCF in this stadium? That'd be insane. You would have been laughed. You would have been booed. They would have thrown water bottles in all likelihood. I mean, and yet here we are in 2024, and that's the reality for Billy Napier and company. So, underdogs against Central Florida. I'll get back to that game in just a moment. Next week, they go at Tennessee. Don't think you're winning that football game. Just a hunch. Then you come back home and you host Kentucky on your homecoming day. Well, if you win that game and you beat Central Florida, suddenly you're 1 win away from getting to 5 wins, which is a number before the year. I said, hey, you get there and Billy Napier keeps his job. But I would have thought they'd beaten either Miami or Texas A&M. I predicted them foolhardily to win both of those games because of some blind faith that Billy Napier hasn't deserved but somehow got from me for those predictions. But the difficult stretch of Florida's schedule hasn't begun yet. UCF, Tennessee, Kentucky. No, that's not the hard stuff. The hard stuff is November 2nd. Georgia, neutral site, at Texas, host LSU, host Ole Miss, at Florida State. Now, those last 3 games certainly look a lot more winnable than they might have to some coming into the year. LSU is exactly what I expected them to be. I didn't think they would beat USC. They didn't. They've won every game since. That's also what I predicted. I have not made an incorrect prediction for LSU's game so far this year. And, I mean, the South Carolina game, like that could have, some would say should have been a loss. But alas, it was not, because Garrett Nussmeier is very good. Ole Miss, those games are at home. If you find a way to win one of those, suddenly you could be looking at bowl eligibility, because you have 2 winnable games in your next 3, and your last game of the season is at Florida State, which is on the road, but I don't know who's going to show up to that game in Tallahassee, because who wants to watch the abomination to college football that is the Florida State offense? It is bad. Tough watch. Not a good team. So suddenly that game appears incredibly winnable. And I do still think, but for the sake of Florida fans' sanity and the hopes they have emotionally invested into the Florida football program, that this isn't the case. If Billy Napier finds a way to get to 5 wins, what do you know? He probably keeps his job, because the schedule is so brutal. And then you have a prove it or lose it year come 2025. But it all starts with this game against UCF. So the Golden Knights are favored for a reason. That reason is that KJ Jefferson is good. RJ Harvey is good. Gus Malzahn as a head coach is good. That's the first reason. The second reason, I don't know how much Vegas factors this in, but I certainly factor this in. The Gators have something kind of to play for. Don't know how high the vibes are. The Knights, on the other hand, have everything to play for in this game. It's a non-conference matchup, but it's the first time UCF is playing Florida as a member of the Big 12. They have the opportunity here to make a statement in the state of Florida, where UCF can be one of the best, if not the best, high school recruiting teams in the Big 12. They could go into the stadium of an SEC team and walk away with a win. They could go into mighty Florida and win the football game. That'd be a heck of a statement for Gus Malzahn and company. And they need it for the sake of their locker room, not for the sake of the Big 12 conference standings. This game has no bearing on that. This has a lot of implications for how confident UCF can be going forward the rest of the year. They're not out of the Big 12 title chase. You know why? No one's out of it. Literally nobody. The Big 12 coming into this year was viewed by many, myself included, as the deepest, most competitive conference title race of the Power Four leagues. That has borne itself out to be true. And somehow we all underplayed how crazy, how chaotic, how wild, how wide open that conference truly is. So UCF, with Big Noon in town, gets embarrassed last week against Colorado. A 27-point home loss when you were favored by around 2 touchdowns? Yikes. That's a major yikes. So they're playing, at least, I would hope, with a chip on their shoulder of being ticked off. That's a dangerous thing. Do you think Florida's ticked off? They're rested. They're coming off a bye. They're at home. But fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I shall not fall into the trap once again of picking Florida to win a football game that they're incredibly capable of winning. The Gators are not huge underdogs for a reason. They've got plenty of talent. If they can just try to find a way to play some cohesive, consistent football. Don't play one half like you did against Texas A&M. Don't forget to roll out of bed like you did week 1 against Miami. If you can play with the talent that's there, sure, things could go well. I don't have any confidence in Florida just because they beat Mississippi State. Mississippi State, yeah, it's an SEC team, but guess what? They got housed. They got housed by Toledo. Okay, Jeff Lebby could be a fine head coach. He does not have a fine football team. He's like Willie Fritz at Houston in the Big 12. Good coach. Can do well. Not going to do well this season. All the chips are stacked against you. So give me UCF, give me KJ Jefferson, the Knights, to get a bounce back win and remind the rest of the Big 12, hey, we might have 2 losses here, but we can still beat you no matter who you are. I will take the Golden Knights to go into Gainesville, win the game, 28-24. Should be a fun football game. Thanks for making this your first listen. Go make Locked On Sports Today your second, with Peter Bukowski giving you the biggest takes from the biggest stories across the entire sporting universe. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time, and until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.